CBDC, it's a central bank digital currency. So it's a currency from the central banks. So it's basically fiat. It's a digital fiat, right? So the central banks create a currency. They create, for example, dollars, reais, the Brazilian currency. Until now, it only happened through banking system to be digital or in paper notes. But Brazilian central bank, USA central banks, and actually a lot of central banks across the world are creating their own CBDCs to compete with Bitcoin, because Brazilian central bank also say that a couple of years ago that they were creating a CBDC so people could adopt it and it would be better than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is totally different from a CBDC because it's not correlated to a central bank. It's a decentralized currency, a decentralized network, a decentralized system that don't depend of governments, don't depend on banks. Anyone can access, is worldwide, is borderless. It's a scarce currency as well that has the best monetary properties and has a lot of characteristics and features that fiat currencies don't have. But I see that in Brazil, most of the population, people still don't know to differentiate Bitcoin from CBDCs or even from other currencies, crypto, for example. It's all mixed up. And for me, the main problem about it is that we didn't have yet in the world a decentralized currency, a decentralized system. So it's difficult to know the difference, right? But for me, it becomes clear when we revive all of the problems of the fiat system, like the hyperinflation, the loss of purchase power. This will happen to CBDC as well because it's a centralized currency. Governments will print or will create more digital currencies when they need to pay their own debts or when they need to print money to financiate political interests, right? So I think people will know more the difference through living the CBDCs just like they lived in the other fiat problems. In Brazil, we had hyperinflation. In the 90s, in the beginning of the 90s, we had a confiscation from the banking savings accounts from people. So the president at the time, President Collor, from one day to another, he decided that it would be a holiday. They closed the bank accounts and Brazilians couldn't withdraw their own money from their savings accounts. This already happened in Brazil. So it's in our history. So I think that with time, we'll revive all of those stuffs, but through CBDCs. And we'll notice the big difference between Bitcoin and CBDCs or any kind of fiat currency, because you can't forbid anyone to send or receive Bitcoin. It's decentralized. You don't have gatekeepers. You don't have banks. You don't have centralized system that lets the central government does this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And before the Real Digital, that is our CBDC that will be launched next year, 2024, it right now is in the test phase. They are testing how it will work. Some people are being invited to participate in the pilot of this system. And but before the CBDC, our central bank launched something called PIX. That is a system that is from the central bank and people access through banks of digital payments instantly without time, it's 24/7 to compete with Bitcoin and other mechanisms. They launched it in 2021, if I'm not wrong in the dates. But it was like a test for a CBDC. It would be something like FedNow they are trying to launch in the USA. But it's from the central banks to the central bank to the banks. And with CBDC will be a currency from the central bank without the need for a banking account, for example. So I think that Brazilians are going to learn this through time. there's a lot of Bitcoiners here in Brazil teaching it. So it's amazing to see how Brazilian has a lot of Bitcoiners everywhere. We find Brazilians teaching and helping and developing Bitcoin, but we also have a little bit of difficulty to understand the difference of the properties like any population in the world, right?